Hello everyone. In this video, we will discuss about basic terminology of the sampling methods. So, sampling methods, before knowing details about sampling, so we need to understand. So, see in this slide, the large circle, this circle is representing target populations. So whenever we are going to begin any kind of the study for research purpose, we need to understand what is our target population. Then out of target population, we will decide study population. Once we have a study population, so out of them, we will select the sample with help of different sampling methodology. So we need to understand about this study population, target population, and sample. Now, when we are going to begin the study, so we need to understand, we have to ask some questions, specific question like, who do you want to generalize to? So answer would be the from theoretical population. What population can you get to study access to? So as we know, the study population. Then how can you get the access to them? So we need to create sampling frame. Once we have a sampling frame, then we have to ask who is in your study, then we'll select the sample. So this is the basics frame of the sampling process we need to understand. Now, if you see this slide, you will get more clarity. There is a huge variation in the samples, individual variations. So in individuals in the population vary from one another with respect to an outcome of interest. So as we know, target population, study population, and samples. When a sample is drawn, there is no certainty that it will be representative for the populations. So like if you see, this is our study population. Out of them, we are drawing the sample A and sample V. So likewise, suppose this is our population, this is the whole group of the populations, and out of these populations, we are selecting samples. So first we are selecting the samples, so sample B and sample A. So there is a variation in the sampling, which one is going to select in your sample. So likewise, see here, same way, target populations, we have study population, and out of study, we are selecting the sample likewise. So this is the basic information we need to understand. Now we have to define sampling. How will you define the sampling? So you can define the process of drawing a representative sample from the study population is known as sampling. So this is the simple basic definition of the sampling. Now we need, once we know the sampling, then we need to understand the sample. What is the sample? So sample we can define a small portion of the population which truly represents the population with respect to the study characteristics of the population is known as sample. For example, suppose if you are going to select the 100 persons selected randomly out of a total study population, which is 1,000 persons, for estimating the mean blood pressure. So this is sample, means 1,000 population. Out of 1,000, you are going to select 100 with help of the sampling mechanism. So this is the basic information about sample. Now we need to understand sampling unit. What is sampling unit? So we can define an element or a group of elements of the population used for drawing a sample is called a sampling unit. Like in our class, there are 150 students. Out of 150 students, we are selecting 25 students. So 25 students is our sample. So each students representing in 25 is known as, each unit is known as a sampling unit in this study. So now sampling frame, once we know the sampling unit, so what is the sampling frame? So we can define a list of all sampling units with identification addresses in a population is known as sampling frame. It serves as the base for selecting a sample. And next point, sampling fraction. So we can say the proportion of sample size. Proportion, if you all remember, we have discussed in the class rate, ratio, and proportion. So proportion of sample size chosen to the population is known as the sampling fraction. For example, if we have to select a sample of size 100 out of a population size of 500, then the sampling fraction will be 100 divided by 500, that is 1 by 5 or 20%. So this is about sampling fractions. Now one last point, which is the sampling interval. So we can define the inverse of the sampling fraction taken as the nearest complete number is known as the sampling interval. For example, if we have to select a sample of size 100 out of a population size of 500, then the sampling interval will be 500 divided by 100, which is 5. So this is basic terminology about sampling methods. So we need to understand what is the target population, what is the study population, then out of study population, how we are going to select sample. Then we need to understand about sampling process steps as we discuss in second slide. Then we need to understand about how to define sampling, what is the sampling unit, what is the sampling frame, what is the sampling fraction, and what is the sampling interval. So this is basic terminology we need to understand. Thank you everyone.